This whole moving the earth around the sun every 365 days thing, it needs to stop. It is not a favorite thing of mine.
Are you an everyday nerd? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next episode.
Yo, welcome to Everyday Nerd. I'm your host, Zac Snyder. If you're new around here, on Yen, we pull from every corner of nerd culture to talk about anything and everything that piques my interest. 2019 is officially behind us. Throughout that year, I experienced a lot of great things. A lot of good movies, a lot of really banging video games, some good television, some great music. And I talk about all of that in my favorite things of 2019 video. Go check that out if you haven't already. But today, we gotta experience the dark side of the force. We gotta talk about the yang of the yin, the negatives of 2019. And what's worse than paying rent? Turns out, not much, except for the fact that I have to pay taxes this year. So if you want to help a boy out, you can check out my Patreon, link in the description, and contribute to the Zac has to pay self-employment tax because Uncle Sam really sucks fund. In the meantime, before I get all cozy in 2020, let's go complain about some other things I really disliked in 2019, and then next year we'll complain about even more stuff, because that's how the cycle continues. I genuinely think I never want to see another superhero movie again in my life. I mean, I'm being a bit hyperbolic here. I did enjoy a couple of superhero films in 2019, but man, oh man, superhero fatigue is just like the bane of my existence right now. I think of a superhero movie and I just get tired, like physically and mentally exhausted. There's gonna be like 20 more superhero movies coming out this new year, and I don't really want to see any of them. And I know that some of them might be good, but I also know that most of them are going to be either bad or just dumb, maybe kind of fun movies. And I just want more out of my media at this point. And superhero movies just aren't doing it for me. Also, I'm currently rewatching the DCEU as I'm recording this video. And I just hate living, man. I hate it. After YouTube messed up royally in 2018 when they made the YouTube rewind that shook the dislike button, people said that it couldn't be done. They could not make a worse YouTube rewind, and yet here we are. We got a Watch Mojo top 10. I said it in 2018 and I'll say it again, YouTube rewind is no longer for the creators or the viewers. It is purely for the advertisers. YouTube wants to make sure that the platform continues to be a great place to sell products through advertisers, and so they use YouTube Rewind as an advertisement for YouTube in of itself. So with YouTube being so massive now, and there being so many different creators and groups of viewers, there's no way for them to be able to just please everybody, so they just decided, F it, we'll just show you what you liked in 2019, and they gave us some statistics. The worst part about all of this, I can't quite blame them. I think that watching YouTube Rewind as a collective will be less and less a thing in the future, and instead more and more creators will do their best in creating videos that will be more accurately defining the year that their particular audiences and perspective had. Fortunately, I do see this more of as a positive than the negative, but as far as the YouTube Rewind itself goes, I did have to put it on this list. I used to experiment a lot with music back in the day, and I really wanted to get back into that in 2019. So I started looking out for major releases that were coming out when I found out that one of my favorite country groups were coming out with a brand new album. Zac Brown Band, who's well known for incorporating other genres into their own music, has a few albums that I would consider to be all-time favorites. Their new album, The Owl, is not one of them. I'm embarrassed that I have listened to this album all the way through. It is such a bizarre combination of country and pop and electronic music. There's a song called OMW that goes like this.
Did you mean to call me, or was that just a pocket dial?
It's just awful. And I thought about putting Lil Pump's Harvard Dropout in this video, but then I thought, you know, people expect that to be bad. I was anticipating The Owl to be an enjoyable listen because I liked this artist, and yet I was just thoroughly disappointed. And now just thinking about it, I'm sad again. Cats is the best movie on planet Earth. And I probably could have put this on my favorite things of 2019 list. But it's also one of the worst things I saw this year. So my relationship with this is quite complicated, to say the least. I have barely any knowledge of the original Cats musical. I don't know any of the songs. I've only seen images of the weird suits that the performers would wear. And so when the Cats trailer dropped last year, and I saw this wonderfully bizarre monstrosity that is the visual effects of this film, I 100% knew I had to see this. And I watched it. And boy, is it just, wow. My favorite scene is when they're in the kitchen and there's cockroaches with human faces, and Rebel Wilson picks one up and eats it. And then she unzips her skin only to reveal more fur underneath it. And the main cat holds these big utensils up for some reason. And then Jason Derulo is in this movie. And then at the Oscars, James Corden and Rebel Wilson presented the Visual Effects Award. And then they did a patch update to the visual effects for this movie. They updated them in the theaters. This is just a beautiful, amazing, brilliant train wreck. And I simultaneously hate it and love everything about it. Alright, I'm gonna be a boomer right quick. 2019 was the year that I definitively decided that I hate social media. I've already hated Facebook for like a few years now, and I've grossly cut down my time on that awful site. But now I'm cutting down my time on Twitter and Instagram and pretty much every other social media app out there. It's frustrating too, because as a content creator, I should be able to use these platforms as a means of creative expression, and instead these algorithms just put crap in front of my face that I don't care about constantly. There's just so much toxic behavior on there. I hate hearing about politics all the time because nobody's really trying to solve any issues. They're just yelling at each other, wasting money, trying to prove that they're the ones that's right and the other ones are wrong. If there's just anything that I plan on spending less time on in 2020, it's social media. Oh yeah, number 6 on this list is Justice League. Everybody's talking about the Snyder Cut. Well, guess what? All of us Zack Snyders can talk to each other telepathically. And you know what? The Snyder Cut, it's not coming out. It's in the Disney vault. Bruh, this video really about to be boomer central. I already talked crap about blockbusters and social media, YouTube. Now let's talk trash about E3. I will not be watching E3 anytime in the near future. Since 2012, I've been watching E3 pretty much every single year on the day that it came out, every single conference. The past few years, I've even streamed my live reactions. I've done podcasts and videos, live tweets and Instagram stories. E3 was just like an event to me, and 2019 killed it. I mean, 2018 was pretty much a rough year to begin with because there just wasn't a whole lot that I cared about. But 2019 sure did just put that last nail in that coffin. Sony didn't show up. EA spent 30 minutes on each game, even though most of them were sports games. They only had 6 games to even present. Bethesda is just a joke at this point. I'm still mad at Todd Howard for lying to me about Fallout 76. In 2020, I'm going to watch the Nintendo Direct, and then I'll be looking at like Polygon's website and looking at what each conference had and watching the few trailers that interest me because I just don't care about E3 anymore. Speaking of video games, I played Clu Clu Land this year, and it's the worst NES game ever made. Don't play Clu Clu Land. It's on the NES Online Switch service, which honestly could probably also go on this list too, even though they finally added the SNES Switch service, but it took them forever. And then it takes them like 3-4 months now to even put anything on there at all now, instead of the monthly releases we're getting. So I don't even have like every month to look forward to more garbage coming to it. Just know that Clu Clu Land is garbage. That's all I gotta say. I did a 28-minute video on this one, so I don't feel like I need to spend too much time on it, but Titans is the worst television show I've ever seen. It's bad. Season 2 was bad. I was disappointed in a show that I already knew was going to be awful because I realized that maybe it actually had some potential, and at the end of the day it just continued to shit the bed. So yeah, Titans is bad. Don't watch it. Cool. Now we're at the top 5. I watched a lot of movies last year, and a lot of them were bad. And so the top 5 are just bad movies. So get excited. The Fanatic stars John Travolta as an autistic man named Moose that's obsessed with an actor to the point where he starts stalking him. This was the only movie in my top 5 that I actually enjoyed watching. So everything to the point after this is just awful and not fun to watch. This one's awful, but fun to watch. It's so bad it's good. The structure of the film makes absolutely no sense. The script is awful, and the acting is... Just look at John Travolta here. It's wonderful, honestly. The best part of this, though, is that The Fanatic was produced by Redbox, but it's still got a limited release in theaters, giving it a grand total in the box office of $3,153. That's amazing. Also, this was directed by Fred Durst, the lead singer of Limp Bizkit. Limp Bizkit. That is all.
Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Dumbar, Mr. Dummy Bar. You have not, I repeat, you have not made the best choices.
So they made an animated Addams Family movie in 2019, and it's really bad. It's like they tried to make it more targeted towards kids, but then they also had a foot fetish joke, so that was pretty unepic. The character designs are ugly, the animation cuts corners, it doesn't capture the charm of the original Addams Family at all, and I'm just disappointed and sad that I watched this. Yeah, that's it. So for some reason, I also watched the Playmobil Movie. Oh, you didn't know there was a Playmobil Movie? Yeah, well, it tanked in the box office. It's a soulless Lego Movie ripoff, just like the Playmobil toys themselves are. It starts off as this live action movie with this sister and brother singing about going on an adventure, and then police come to their house and tell them that their parents died in a car crash. Then 5 years later, they get transported into a Playmobil world, whatever that means. And then there's no logic in the film whatsoever. And Daniel Radcliffe plays this spy dude. And then the movie ends. And I mean, I don't know what I expected when I sat down to watch the Playmobil Movie. But it's obviously a bad movie. And I hate myself.
I'm sorry, but there's been an accident.
Speaking of hating myself, After is a Netflix original film that was produced by Wattpad. Wattpad is a fan fiction website. After is based off of a One Direction fan fiction, and I watched it. See, I like cheesy rom-coms. And so, every once in a while, I sit down, I pull up Netflix, and I say, let me go watch this cheesy rom-com. So that After popped up, looked like it'd be a cheesy rom-com. 15 minutes in, there's no cheesy jokes. It's just boring. I look it up on Google. It's just a straight romance movie based off of this One Direction fan fiction. I could have stopped watching, but I'm 15 minutes in. I gotta see what happens. So what does happen? It's like 50 Shades of Grey if it was targeted towards preteens. And the movie, it just keeps going and going and going. It's 2 hours of boring nonsense. I think I got the coronavirus. I'm gonna do an entire video on this at some point, but it's easily one of the worst films I've ever seen. Only topped by the #1 film on this list, which I have talked about on the channel, and that's Loquisha.
Loquisha gonna be the biggest thing in radio, but I still need my anonymity.
You nervous? Very. It's not a crime. It's theater.
You live with Loquisha. What's your problem?
Hi, Loquisha. It's free.
Loquisha is a movie about Jeremy Seville, a quote-unquote comedian. He does the voiceover equivalent of blackface. He takes on the role of a black woman named Loquisha, and he becomes famous by it. That's the entire movie. Again, I did an entire video on this, and I really have just been trying to wipe my mind of this because it doesn't need any more exposure. As far as I'm concerned, unless I make like a worst films I've ever seen list video, I'm never talking about it again. Loquisha is offensive, it's unfunny, it's tone deaf, it's technically awful, there's bad acting, there's bad editing, there's bad shot composition. You could show this to film students around the world as to everything you shouldn't do in a film. You could show this to comic students around the world as to everything you shouldn't do as a comedian. I've literally never seen anything worse. If I had a newborn child in 2019 and it got ran over in the same year, Loquisha would still be the worst thing I had ever seen in 2019. Well, I guess I'm a sellout now. This episode of Your Everyday Nerd is brought to you by my Patreon. Go check it out. Help me survive. Help me pay my taxes this year. I wasn't joking. I owe money to the IRS this year. Not from doing YouTube videos, but by editing videos for other people. For the last year, I've been self-employed. I've been banging it out, paying my bills, working it, trying to figure out how I'm gonna live. And then the IRS knocked on my door and they said, guess what? You owe us money for being self-employed. That's the US government, boys. So if you want to help me pay my taxes, you can check out the Patreon. And in doing so, you'll be supporting Your Everyday Nerd. But that's all the time we have left for today. If you liked the video, go hit that like button. If for reason you didn't like it, hit the dislike button. Let me know down in the comments what were your worst things of 2019. No, do not put Your Everyday Nerd. It makes me sad. If you don't like this show, I put my blood, my sweat, and my tears into it. Okay? We got more content coming on the way. A couple more videos before we jump into that Oscar nominees. I know the Oscars are over, but I still want to go through all the best pictures because I really liked most of them this year, and I really disliked one of them. I wonder which one it is. One of them probably could have gone on this list actually, but I'm saving it for that video. So we'll have Oscar noms, and then we're gonna have the best of the decade list. I've got all kinds of crap planned for that, and then we got Addams Family Week 2020 coming up soon, baby. So we're just gonna be rolling. We're just gonna be keeping on going, and hopefully I don't burn out. That'd be epic. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.